University of Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe had his pro day today. And what was on social media was unfortunately the thing that didn't need to be highlighted on social media. We're going to talk about it. Browns 3D starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening, Mower, Sales, and Service. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate you all listening to the past episodes, absorbing all the written content of the OBR, and, of course, the rest of the nightly streaming lineup here from the OBR on YouTube and, of course, the OBR over on Twitch. Appreciate, again, all the support in such a busy and certainly for this season a critical time for your Cleveland Browns. University of Alabama Pro Day today. Jalen Milroe, as you can tell by social media and pretty much, and look, some of that you can't show. It all depends on whose video it is. You saw the 40 time, and at first it was anywhere from 4.37 to mid 4.53, whatever. First thing I noticed when you look at the video of Jalen Milroe running the 40, you actually probably you're going to take a little bit off that time because you kind of notice he starts running a little askew. The second run was better and a little bit more straighter. But there is, believe it or not, some technique into actually running the best possible 40 you could. So Jalen Milroe probably ends up somewhere in the mid 4.4s, completely what was expected. Now, there were a lot of people when Jalen Milroe was down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. There were a lot of people, of course, who kind of said he struggled. He is working and being tutored this draft season with Jordan Palmer, Carson Palmer's younger brother, one of the absolute best in the business in developing quarterbacks and basically tearing apart technique and building up new technique. So when Jalen was down in Mobile, it was a lot. It was very, very rocky. And as everybody knows, it didn't really go that well for him down there. You saw what he did is throwing at the combine. You saw some technical differences. You saw the importance that he seemed to be emphasizing on his footwork. Well, what you saw today was even more of the same. And it kind of looks to me like Jordan Palmer kind of tore down Jalen Milroe physically a little bit and is in the process of reworking him, reteaching him the technique that Alabama chose to let go for whatever reason they did. I'm starting to think and believe even more. I told you yesterday I thought maybe the odds were a little bit better for Shedeur Sanders as far as going number 2 overall to the Cleveland Browns. I just think they're just not in love. And, to make that move at 2 overall, it has to be that you are just downright giddy, Bugs Bunny eyes popping out of your head, in love with the quarterback. We've talked about this before. The return on the investment for other positions at number 2 are a lot easier to achieve necessarily than the return of the investment at quarterback at number 2 overall. Now, I have mentioned to this point, Shedeur Sanders hasn't worked out. The Big 12, and I told you guys yesterday, the Big 12 pro days are combined down in Frisco, Texas this year, basically doing everybody. So they're basically having a Big 12 combine, basically, is the way they're choosing to do it. Might not be in the best interest of some of the bigger name players, but it also probably is a little bit more in the best interest of the lesser known players that everybody will be there. Some pro days teams, they allocate who's going to go, who's not going to go. If it's the entire conference, you're going to get a really, really nice turnout, obviously. But with Milroe, and you see that just the tightening of the footwork, which is the biggest thing in my opinion, in probably why his accuracy is lacking. And you're too wide, you don't have as much control over to where the ball is going. So certainly something, a point of emphasis that they are trying to do with Jalen Milroe. I think the Cleveland Browns are to the point where they believe where they would draft Jazxon Dart or where they would draft Jalen Milroe, they are a lot more comfortable with that gamble at that price than they would be of the Shedeur Sanders gamble at number 2 overall. Do I still think Cam Ward is out of it? Absolutely. And no David Njoku Instagram post is going to change my mind on that. And of course, there is the Jalen Milroe, Tommy Rees connection between these two. So certainly with your new offensive coordinator, having this background with maybe possibly your quarterback of the future, you just can't ignore it. You just can't. And what does anybody do? When we get in the off season, we get into new hires, this, that, and everything. Oh, well, they brought this guy in. What does everybody do? You run to Wikipedia, you start checking backgrounds, and then you find out the connection that this guy has to your staff somehow, some way. Oh, it's a younger guy. Let's see. Video assistant, So, don't believe that familiarity is not a huge part, or plays a huge part in decision making, whether it's staff, certainly whether it's personnel, and most certainly drafting players. I think the other thing that is really, really appealing, I think, for the Browns with Jalen Milroe is that he is just a workaholic. And when you get guys going through this process, there's not a lot of them that want to listen to what deficiencies they may have. Some of them are even so stubborn as to believe they do not have deficiencies. But how NFL teams view this and want to see how it works is to see how these young men take the criticism and work to correct it, work to rectify it. And that is certainly something, that everybody seems to speak about with Jalen Milroe is he is just he's just a worker. He literally is just a worker. I think he's 22 years old at this point, already holds 2 degrees from the University of Alabama. So certainly a dedicated student in the classroom, on the practice field, extra work, weight room, all of that stuff. You saw him out there and, Jalen Milroe is put together. He is really put together. NFL body ready to go day one. You need to know where the weight room is on the campus of University of Alabama. I guarantee you Jalen Milroe is going to show you exactly where it is. So I think that is also something is you want to have a guy who's got that work ethic to him. Certainly have been incidents in the past in the NFL, Jamarcus Russell, wherever, where guys were just trying to basically coast through their time in the NFL, and it just certainly is not going to fly in this league, and it's certainly not going to fly at a position as important as quarterback. We all know this. The Carson Wentz name got brought up today. Again, to the OBR insiders, if you're part of that, you probably got a good chuckle. And to those, I know Jeff was one of them. I think Jack McCurry was one of them who, were kind enough to make sure that the OBR was getting credit for that, as everybody tried to take it and just give all the credit to Mary Kay Cabot. Sorry, Miss Cabot, but that one has been out and for a while through the insiders here at the OBR. Now, if the Wentz thing comes to fruition, which, it could, but if you're telling me, and this is where I think everybody gets confused, oh, well, it's Wentz and Pickett. That means you got to take Sanders. If their stance is he's not the guy, they're not going to change that stance because they didn't get a free agent quarterback that they were hoping to get. If he's not it, he is not it. But if you're looking at the dynamic and the makeup of possibly a quarterback room of Kenny Pickett, Carson Wentz, and let's just say for this exercise, Jalen Milroe, Kenny Pickett's your starting quarterback week 1, guys. That is something that could seriously, seriously happen. And look, I told you all when I started here, I told you all 2 months ago, there is no way to look at this, and it's going to be a situation where you say, man, I really love what the Cleveland Browns have done with their quarterback room. It was never going to happen. There just wasn't the options out there. They weren't going to pay Sam Darnold $34 million for 1 year. That was never going to happen. So, you're still playing the game of musical chairs with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and Atlanta, you can Phenopoly Atlanta. I'm not paying him and giving you a draft pick. He can rot in Atlanta for all I'm concerned. I wasn't that thrilled enough to bring him here. And Pete Smith, I believe my man said it last night on the React. The ultimate appeal of Kirk Cousins was the fact he was going to basically be discount double check. He was going to be league minimum. You were paying him dirt. Now I got to pay him money, real money. I got to give up a draft asset. And Kirk Cousins maybe is to the point where I'm not going to sign with a team till after the draft because he doesn't want the Penix situation to happen again. Never mind. Never mind. Any interest I had is gone. Absolutely out the window. You don't want to fight for a job? Sit in Atlanta, count your money, and, watch Michael Penix play. Your latest on the Browns quarterback situation. Browns, 3D rolls on. We've been talking, for over a month now, and really excited about the partnership here with State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights. If you are local to the Cleveland area, they are your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Look, you want to spend your Sundays watching the Browns, not cutting your grass. Let the guys at State help you get your weekend back. They specialize in both residential and commercial equipment for Toro, the brand professionals have counted on for more than 100 years. Whether you're looking for a new, dependable, time cutter zero turn, genuine Toro replacement parts, or expert service from experienced technicians who keep your mower in peak condition, State has got your back. They are veteran owned. The Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders. They are lifetime Browns fans and proud supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you are local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. So obviously talking some quarterback here today, just going through. Okay. All right. Nothing new to this point. We're monitoring, always monitoring, guys, trying to get you the most accurate information we certainly can. Make sure you're sticking around today. I don't think Barry is going to be on this week. I know Fred will. I think there's a good chance Brad Ward is going to be sitting in with the legend himself, Fred Greetham, tonight. So stick around for that right after this. Make sure you're downloaded on YouTube. And, of course, you're subscribed over on YouTube and, of course, over on Twitch as well. Now, you're starting to try to go through this, right, and starting to look at this first round. So we think, right, pick 1, Cam Ward. Pick 2, Abdul Carter. You want the Giants to give up some change to come up if they want Shedeur Sanders. Although the latest and kind of bebopping around, I'm not sure the New York Giants are sold on Shedeur Sanders themselves either. 4. So what do the Giants do there? Maybe Travis Hunter? Maybe Hunter? Hunter and Neighbors? And find somebody to play the quarterback position. That's a nice duo. You have New England there at 4. Certainly looking to get their hands on an impact player. And, I guess while we're here, the more I go through this, the more people I reach out to, the more people that get back to me in regards to Hunter, I'll be stunned. I would be stunned if he is drafted by the teams that are believed to have the highest interest in Travis Hunter, that he is going to play anywhere else but wide receiver. I'm not saying there couldn't be a roll or a down or somebody's injured and he's got to take a couple of reps. But it seems the overall consensus thinking right now is that Travis Hunter is going to play wide receiver. Now, look, I think, and we talked about this, very early in the process when we got here, it was going to be super difficult to assess a guy like Travis Hunter. And the reason was going to be is everything we all fell in love with that we saw this past fall at Colorado, you basically had to cut that right down the middle and cut it in half. So you basically had to say, I got to study him as a defensive back. I've got to study him as a wide receiver. And he's good at both. He's very good at both. But in this day and age of the NFL, where it's yards and points and high impact offenses, I think most of the time people are going to lean offense over defense. And I think that's a situation that Hunter is going to find himself in here. You hear him talk, it doesn't really seem like he has a desire either way. And I don't want that to sound negative. I think, Hunter is definitely, and look, you played for Deion Sanders, and it's not like Deion, I think there's a misconception that Deion was easy on these kids, which could be further from the truth. So I think that this kid is humble enough and coachable enough that whatever his future employer tells him as far as what tasks they're actually asking him to do relative to the game of football, that Travis Hunter is going to be all about it. I think the other thing is, as much offense as he has now played, defense might be a little boring. It just might be able to get a little bit boring on that side of the ball. It's always coming at you. You've always got to be responsible for the tackle. You're going to get the ball in your hands every now and then, but it's not like it is on the offensive side of the ball. I honestly believe that, Travis Hunter is going to be nothing but a wide receiver in this league. Now, I've also spoken on Hunter in this regard. Now, if you look at him solely as a wide receiver, it becomes difficult to justify maybe a top 5 selection on him. He's just not this uber prospect in every aspect, okay? The production, off the charts. Testing numbers, athletic ability, don't have them yet. Athleticism, don't have them yet. So we will find these things out shortly, certainly. So as that goes on for the next few days, the Big 12, I'll just call it the Big 12 Combine, goes on for the next few days, we can start to maybe get some, answers on that stuff. I think it was 6 feet, 180 and change, at the actual NFL Combine. His size is not wowing you into a top 5 selection as a wide receiver. His production certainly warrants it. There's no question about it. The athleticism, and that's one, I don't think he's going to be a guy that runs a low 4.3. I also don't think he's the guy that's going to be in the 4.5s that's going to concern you. But he's just not, this big, fluid overall, Calvin Johnson. The reason, and I'm not comparing in any way whatsoever, Calvin Johnson went number 1 overall. He was just everything you would want. Granted, he actually didn't really have the production at Georgia Tech because they had no idea what the hell they were doing with him back in the day. But Hunter's certainly by far one of the more interesting and polarizing guys throughout this draft process, which I think is really, really starting to go away at this point, because looking more and more with everybody that you believe, he is going to be just a wide receiver in the NFL. That is the way he is being viewed by the teams that have interest. Certainly could be the Giants, certainly could be New England, certainly Jacksonville could use yet another playmaker for Trevor Lawrence, as they moved on from a lot of skill this year as well. So for Hunter, it's been a fun ride. And for some of these guys who just, look, let's get this over with. We need some numbers. It's the last thing we got to do here before, boards can start to be finalized. Week from Friday, you have Penn State, and I think that really much closes out the pro days. That one will, of course, be absolutely enormous. Does Abdul Carter work out, which will be a great sign. Then, of course, Abdul Carter does have the medical recheck that he will have to go back to Indianapolis to get the foot tended to and have, basically a reassess and, where they are at. Are they recommending anything further? We've already seen, some of these guys who went to the combine diagnosed with injuries. Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama, after the combine had his shoulder surgery, had the same injury as Baker Mayfield. So, I don't know if that's going to basically hinder Campbell, of course, in the draft process. I don't see any reason why it would. But, certainly something, you don't want to have to necessarily go through at this point in time. I know a lot of you, and like look, I can't even begin to tell you how much we appreciate you guys checking in here every day, looking for highlights, reading the stories. And, for us, yeah, we'd love for the Browns to make a signing every day. So we could, but the turnout and the way things have been going these last couple of weeks, even with the Browns not doing that much, a big thank you from us here at the OBR to all of you guys. You guys have been coming back every day, and that's why we're going at it as hard as we possibly can. We wish there was more to report to you, and we wish some of these moves, obviously were better than they were. I'm still getting sick and tired of, national media talking about the cash-strapped Browns. Annoys the living daylights out of me. The Browns could create $55 million before you all sat down for dinner tonight, and that's legit. I'm not making that up, and if you don't believe me, go read our resident money guy, Jack Duffin, and he will tell you the same, of course. That's aggravating me. The Russell Wilson thing, it could come down to money. It's not the Russell Wilson thing can come down to money that the Browns can't afford. That's not it. It's money they'd rather not pay, or they think he is not worth. It's not holding the Browns back. If there was a guy available right now who was a good enough quarterback and the Browns felt he was worth $35 million, they would get him. They're going to overpay Russell Wilson at this point of his career. They are not just going to throw money at the Atlanta Falcons because they got themselves into an absolutely piss poor deal and are now going to try to play, flex some muscles. Terry Fontenot, get over yourself. Okay. Am I hoping something happens for the Browns? Yeah. We all open our social medias. We're all screwing through it. We're all hoping to look for something new. You've gotten to see, over on Browns Daily, Nathan Cigar is doing a fantastic job, talking with the new guys, or the renew guys, if we call them that. Obviously, Devin Bush on today. Certainly a signing that I'm very excited about. Long history with his father. Have had conversations with his old man now, probably up to probably about a decade now. Devin Bush, for what you're paying him this year, I thought Devin Bush really showed well last year and ended up playing a lot more than I think the Browns were going to have to use him. So, I was a guy I was kind of happy, most certainly to get back, for this team. 10 selections coming in a little bit more than a month from now from the Browns in this draft. And again, I'm kind of circling back to where we started here. I think the Browns feel more comfortable about what the price as far as a draft pick would be for a Jalen Milroe or a Jazxon Dart, as opposed to snagging Shedeur Sanders at 2. I think a lot of people just assume, because of the need at the quarterback position and holding the number 2 selection, it's got to be a quarterback. It's got to be a quarterback. It's got to be. Think about how many times you have heard that. And this goes all the way back to January when the Browns finally secured that number 2 overall pick. Yes, a quarterback would be great. But the point of having a pick as high as number 2 is you are getting an impact guy. How many quarterbacks have we seen drafted in that range where by year 2, they've already been benched? By year 3, they're probably not even with the franchise anymore, maybe. You can't have that. Abdul Carter has all the potential to be an impactful defender. He would be here for 5 seasons. So technically, he would be here with Myles Garrett for 5 years, and then Myles Garrett would technically have one more year with the Cleveland Browns. I believe the Browns' interest in Carter is related on most everything we've heard about Jim Schwartz since he's been here. Jim Schwartz is not dumb enough, and you should know better than this by now, and certainly in this age of football. Your secondary can be all pro at both corners and both safeties. But in this league, and certainly within the AFC, it probably still doesn't matter. You have a murderer's row of quarterbacks in this American Football Conference. And the easiest way to defend them is to have the quarterback throw the ball to his mom or have to get up off the grass 15 to 20 times a game. Teams try and take Myles Garrett out of it. We know that doesn't really work. But what are you going to do if you're going to try to take Myles Garrett out of it and you've got a guy on the other side who's younger and faster? What are you going to do about that? That's certainly, in my opinion, a very strong recipe into slowing down Joe Burrow. Because if you're not getting after Joe Burrow, again, your secondary could be 4 All-Pros or 4 Hall of Famers. If you're not getting after the quarterback, you're not covering Jamar Chase and you're not covering T. Higgins. It's just not going to happen. When Lamar Jackson starts running out wide and either making things happen on the scramble drill or taking it up the sideline to choke you out on a 3rd and 9 and he runs for 11, you've got guys in Myles Garrett. You've got guys in a would-be Abdul Carter who can run with him and hopefully take that kind of away. It's got to be impact. And I don't know if I would label Hunter as the guy that would give you that impact at number 2 overall. I'll give it to Cam Ward. I'm sorry, I cannot give it to Shedeur Sanders. I can give it to Abdul Carter. And in my opinion, that's it. I don't think there's anybody after that you can say, impact player, change the overall perception of whatever unit he goes to, your offensive side of the ball, your defensive side of the ball. I'm not sure that there's anyone that knew elite impact in this draft that truly changes either A, an offense, or B, a defense, besides Cam Ward and Abdul Carter. It's a great class. It's just not top heavy. It doesn't have elite impact game changers. It just doesn't. And they're few and far between. So I will continue to ride that it is Abdul Carter at 2. And so much so that I will tell you it's going to be Abdul Carter with the Browns' first selection. And I'd be stunned if the Browns' second selection was anybody else wherever the pick is made other than Jalen Milroe or Jazxon Dart. If I am the Browns, I am seeing how serious the New York Giants could possibly be in Shedeur Sanders. And you hear this, that they are very strongly into Shedeur, or they are not very strongly into Shedeur. But you want him that bad? Trade up one spot. Browns still get their guy. They get the pick they can use for their quarterback and still have pick 33. So how about Abdul Carter, Jalen Milroe, Travion Henderson? How's that? Will that get you all over Shedeur Sanders? Certainly would work for me. My defense gets it. Gets a dude. My offense gets a guy who does not need a lot of touches to rack up a lot of yards and touchdowns. And maybe, just maybe, in 2026, this guy, Jalen Milroe, with Tommy Rees, becomes something. But again, I wish there were better words for all of you who seem in this quarterback sadness and mess. I really wish there was. But this is unfortunately the way it was always going to play out, because you can't get what's not there. We appreciate you all for, obviously all the reading, all coming out every night for the streaming content. Make sure you subscribe to the OBR on YouTube, and of course the OBR over on Twitch as well. Browns 3D has been brought to you on the OBR by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. I am Jeff Lloyd. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Browns 3D, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.